Hey guys, this is Nelson with Flat 6 Media. This is my 2018 Honda Accord LX, and this is my long-term review. So I'm about 28 months into my lease. I can't really say that this has been a bad experience at all. It's been actually a pretty great experience owning this car. Now, this model was interesting. At the time, I just wanted to get into something fast and cheap, so I called my local Honda dealer, and they said, sure, come on down, we'll have something ready for you to go. Right off the line, differing from a 3.0 to 1.5, it was a bit of a shell shock. But the more and more I drove it, I actually was surprised at the output of the 1.5 liter engine. So yeah, it's under 200, nothing like the 310 that I had on tap in the Audi, but I wasn't too disappointed in getting used to the driving experience. It's of course slow off the line, it's drony because it is a CVT transmission. But once you're in motion, the pickup is pretty good, and you can always hear the turbo spooling up, which is a neat little, it's a neat little sound for a car that's supposed to be just a standard basic sedan. I made some tasteful aesthetic upgrades to the lighting. I started with replacing the high beams with LED lights, then my corner markers in the rear to an LED blinker, as well as the reverse lights to all LED, and it just raised the aesthetic that much. And finally, I found a hack that made living with this car incredible. By replacing the remote with a remote with the auto start feature, I found out that this car actually has auto start. Now, what are some of the perks? Comfort, much better than the last generation. I have to say the seats hold you very nicely in this basic trim with just cloth and not leather. They do a pretty decent job, but on a long trip, I would say after about the 3 to 4 hour mark, you start to feel the seats. You start to feel the road a little bit more because the suspension is just not as robust. But just having the tougher and plusher leather seats make a big difference in the feel of a car. They hold you pretty well. They're not overly wide. They're not overly narrow. They feel just right for full-grown adult. I'm about 5'9", and these seats feel pretty comfortable. You have a nicely lit cluster in front of you, and half of it is actually all digital. And that screen cycles you through your fuel economy, it cycles you through some of the Honda sensing bits, and your gauges, your oil life on the get. The things that you experience in the cabin are some of the drone and the takeoff, of course. And the cabin I wish was a little bit quieter, keeping more of the outside world out. You do get some wheel noise on the highway. You get some sounds from the outside, but it's really not that bad of an experience. The car itself is fairly quiet, very low levels of engine noise coming into the cabin. Where the cool bits are is when you start getting into using the Honda sensing, the technology package that they've offered standard in all of these cars. So what does that mean? You get lane keep assist, you get radar cruise, and it keeps the distance in front of the car. That's what that radar cruise does. So not only does this keep you in your lanes, it actually does some distance measuring and some braking at the same time. It actually does braking for you when the car in front of you brakes, or if anybody happens to cut in your lane, the car will apply the brakes. One of the definite perks of owning this car, it also acts as an agent for you to just sort of relax behind the wheel. It's really helpful on long trips, as the car does some steering and some braking for you, so it sort of allows you to take a small mental break. What I used to use as a measure for a luxury car versus non-luxury cars was how refreshed you get to places after long trips. And that's something that in my Audi was fantastic, because you would drive 4, 5, 6 hours and it felt like no time had passed by, and you arrive just as refreshed as when you got in the car. That's one of the things that in this Accord, it really levels up the experience for the driver. And you know, you're not getting the full experience, but you're getting pretty close to the experience as you would in a more expensive car. And that's why I have to say that owning this car has been fantastic. It does everything that it's supposed to do. When you're on the highway and the turbo spool and go, you can actually feel the car pulling a bit. The braking is just right in this car. It's weighted perfectly. There's not too much travel. The car does a very good job of staying level when you brake hard also, so it levels out nicely. It must have a leveling system like a more expensive car. With the 1.5 model, you still get to keep having a shifter, which is comfortable for most because it's a place where you rest your hands. I can imagine it's a different experience with the 2.0 version engines of this car that comes with the 10-speed transmission, and that means no more shifter for Honda. It's all buttons. It's been a dream maintaining this car. It's just been your regular fluid changes. I haven't had any major or even minor issues for that matter. Now at the 29,000 mark, I do feel a bit of a vibration in one of my front calipers. I'm not sure if I have to change a pad or if I have to resurface the disc, but we'll look into that. I chose this car over, let's say, the Kia Optima, the Hyundai Sonata, and the previous generation Camry at the time. I drove all of those cars, and this car came out on top. The combination of braking, turning, stopping, and going, and the way this car feels on the road, how easy it is to see out the front of the car. You know exactly where all your corners are. To me, this Honda Accord felt the best. I'm about to start looking for my next vehicle. I might consider leasing a higher version of this car. I understand that the 2021 has Apple CarPlay even in the LX version, which this car does not have. For the next car, I guess we'll see. I've been tinkering with the idea of getting a Volkswagen Arteon, or even maybe even the Jetta GLI. I might even consider looking at the TLX, see if the 4-cylinder version's a little bit affordable. So stay tuned and let's see what the next car choices will be. This is Nelson from Flat 6 Media, and this is my 2018 Honda Accord LX long-term review. Thanks for stopping by.